Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today we're looking at Kanal. This is by Rosenberg, a 1 to 2 player game. It is a Euro game. It looks a lot like Glass Road. This is a game about trying to get the most points by building up structures and trying to beat your opponent. You're either going to be playing with this round symbol, or you're going to play with the square icon. As you can see, my board represents the square one here, but it doesn't make any difference. You could choose to play with the round one. For the first game, you want to play this side round. And for future games, when you feel ready for it, you can choose to play on the blank side and play as you wish. However, so far we've only been playing it on the this beginner kind of side of the board. So this is a game that I've actually played 4 times in a row. I've actually lost every game, but it's been very close, only losing by a few points. When you reach 100 points, you're going to flip your marker over. And so far, the points have been something like 100 to 103, or sometimes closer, sometimes slightly further away than that. You can start with some clay. Yes, that is kind of yellow clay. It's going to go on position 2. Your wheel is going to be positioned like this. This is a wheel that looks like this. You're going to slot it in. It does not get knocked. Check out my Babylon video, because some people say that's a dexterity game. It's not. I feel like that game though, just be careful you don't want to knock your board. Stone is going to start off 1. You're going to have steel on 0. You can have coal and wood on their respective places. So 1 for coal and 0 for wood. And you can buy these basic resources. You can only produce these resources. Now I have zoomed out. It does take up quite a bit of space. And I have had some comments already on the channel about zooming out, because I do know you don't get it in 4K. However, I will show you some cards. So you're going to shuffle up this deck of cards, and you're going to be placing out the respective amounts. And 9 is going to go on the hand side. I'm just going to bring a few out here to save a bit of time. If any questions, always do let me know via the comments. The best on YouTube. If you are watching this as a short, please make sure you watch the full video as well over on YouTube as well for any kind of questions, updates, etc. And also, if you have any other kind of comments, it's best to head through today, because this does get shared, so please do share as well. This game ends once you have completely emptied the blue stack, and then you're going to play 1 more round. So you're going to finish the round, play 1 more round. You're going to decide who starts, and whoever starts, so they can choose what colour they're going to play as. You can play as blue, or you can play as red. And the person who's going to go first gets an extra token to mean they can take 3 actions in their round. The other player will get 2 talers. Now, talers, I've talked about Findorf, because I guess we're in northern Germany or of the time, and yes, they're going to have some money. Money is a tight resource in this game. So let's say I'm playing as blue, I play as both colours, it makes no difference. And if I am speaking too fast, please slow the video down or rewatch it. I do recommend a second watch. You're going to reveal a number of these cards. The amount you're revealing is 4. The reason you reveal 4 is you reveal 4 from this stack, and once it's emptied, or as and when you get into the stack, you're then revealing out 5, and onto this stack you reveal 6. So let's make a bit of space over here. I was going to put it at the top of the board, but as you can see, even zooming out, it's still quite tight. Now, as for these containers, you can check out my accessories playlist about these. So I know you cannot read this over on the left-hand side, but I'll explain what they mean in a second. We have got some iconography. 6 points at the end of the game. The cost to build the structure. 1 wood and 1 clay in this case. And you are wanting to have 4 of any roots anywhere on the board to have this produced. And then what can happen is, once you've got that happen, you can trigger the building's ability, which is once you've surrounded it. I'll show you how that works in a second. And whatever you have the smallest amount of roots of one type, so in this case I've got blue, I'll tell you what that means in a second, you will produce 1 wood, and as long as you have 1 bit of road around it, you're going to get 3 coal as well, and I'll talk to you about that again in a moment. So again, points is all important in this game. Let's show you how it works. So you're initially going to be laying out some money. So money is going to go on these starting spaces in this top row. These bottom ones produce resources, produce 4 wood, produces 4 clay, and you can have either 3 clay or 3 wood or 3 coal, or you could choose to get a bridge. So let's just chuck out some cards. We've done 4 cards out to the left-hand side. Let's tell you why I might want to pick a card, and how do you pick a card? Well, to pick a card, you need to pick an action space which allows you to take a card. So that is a structure. Purple, I guess, is kind of a wild. So that one allows me to get one of those structures, as long as I can afford it. This one is identical, but obviously it's not as good, because this one lets you build some different kind of roots. Over here lets you produce certain types of roots, and this lets you produce any kind of root. We've mentioned these ones already. So what does this one do? What are these symbols? Well, over here we have got paths. You're taking paths and you're placing that on your board. Over here you happen to have canals, you happen to have roads, and you happen to have train lines or tracks. So how do you place these out? Well, for tracks, they must be next to an existing piece of track, and the same with canals. Water needs to continue, but paths and roads can go wherever they like. So let's look through these cards again and see if I can actually build anything on my first turn. And I think I can build this one. I'll show you how that works. So I can build this paying its cost. Now, initially, I start off with no money, but I'm going to take my first action and I'm going to go here. Now, again, I could have gone here to build it, but I'm stopping my opponent from going there. So I'm going to go here, pay my costs. I pay 1 clay. I do not have any wood. I can spend 1 thaler to move this onto one position. So I take that 1 money that I've just accumulated from here. I tend to leave them in this kind of area down the bottom here. So spend the money back to the bank, and now I can build it because I've got myself 1 wood and I've spent that wood. And I can place this wherever I like. I'm going to place this here. Now, the other thing to show you in this symbol, in this particular card, is it's got this symbol, which means anywhere. Anywhere you can find 4 different things. Well, currently there's only 3 different things, so it's not going to activate, but I'm going to place this out here. Now, I've also got other things I could build. I could build either one clay path, or I could build myself 1 road using stone. I am going to use a stone. I'll tell you why. Because if I happen to have a path or road, a road next to it, I get 3 coal, which might be useful for me later in the game. Now, the other advantage of building out these route pieces, and you said the American there saying route, is you will lose 1 point for every empty space, and there's 31 spaces on here with 4 already taken, so 27 you can lose if you have not filled this up. This is very much a game about building structures. Unlike Fields of Arle, which this does remind me of as well, and Or at Labora and Caverna, you want to make sure that you can try and do many different things. But the key things is getting points from buildings. I've often lost this game, though, by having more structures than my opponent, and more points sometimes from structures. But there are other things that you can gain points from as well, which I'll show you. So I've now built this building, I've finished my turn. It's their turn, I don't know, let's say they go there. It's back to my turn. So again, I do have 3 actions available. I'm going to think about this, and maybe I want some cash. Now this one allows you to build either 3 paths, or up to 3 paths, or up to 3 stone to make roads. However, I've only got 1 resource to build 1 piece of path. Not very useful at this moment for me. This one over here lets me build 2 of anything. So I could choose to build 2 paths, 1 path and a road. I could build, maybe I could build myself some water. So I could build myself some canal, and I'll get some clay back, but it's going to cost me 3 money. I've got no money. Or I could choose to build some railroad tracks, spending a wood and steel. Very thematic, obviously, because that's what you'd need. But as you can see, I've got none of that stuff. So what do I want to do instead? I don't know. Let's just go down here, because most of these structures, I think, generally need wood. So now I'm going to get myself forward. So bang up to here, and now it's their turn. They've blocked a space. I don't know. Let's say they block this one, and let's say I go here. So now I can build a path. A path I can build for 1. So I can build a path here and put it here. And then it goes down. Now, if I had enough money, so before I built that path, I could have had enough to pay 2. I could have bumped this up. You have to pay the cost it's moving up to, and now I've got 2. So it's more and more expensive where it goes around. But let's just say I spent that cost, and now I've bought up this. Now I've left this out on purpose. We're going to be finishing the round in a second, but just as an example, I somehow afforded this, but I've got this in this position here. At the end of the round, this can move round 1 position exactly. That's useful typically because now you've got these more valuable resources. As you see, they're quite good for building some other structures compared to maybe building these things out, which you can always build or pay for. Now, when you've surrounded something, so let's just say in a future turn, I've managed to surround this somehow or another, I can now activate it. To activate it, you take 2 activation tokens, you place them on, and well, in fact, you place them as soon as you build the structure, and then what you can do is activate it. So in this case, what's the lowest thing I've got is water or track, doesn't make a difference. I would get myself 2 wood. So for example, I've taken 2 wood, that would have come off. I do have at least 1 of these pieces of road, so I get myself 3 coal as well. So that would have happened, and then one of the things comes off. Now let's just say the game goes on. So we finish the round. Now the opponent is going to get themselves their tokens with the grey one. So how that's going to work is any space that does not have anything taken off them. So these 2 were not used. They're incentivized by getting some money. These upper tokens will always get an extra money as well. And everyone takes their tokens back. So remember, I'm playing as blue, so I take my 2 blue tokens back. The opponent takes red, plus they take the extra token. And now, of course, they're leading off. So something's going to be blocked by the time it's my turn, and then I'm going to see what I can do. So what else can you do on your turn? Well, for some reason, you might want to move this further. So let's say I did have some money, as you can see how tight it is. Imagine I moved it up here. I spent 1 to do so. I could also spend 2 money to move this. That's what this does. The entire wheel can move, and that's ahead of waiting to the end of the round. Now, the last thing I haven't shown you is the end of the round. You're also going to bring out more cards. So bring out more cards until you have 4. But again, as you've gone through this deck and you're drawing into this deck, you're going to be bringing out 5, and then you're bringing out 6. Also, once this deck is empty, you've now got extra action spots available. So rather than when you're going here, it only gives you a kind of a weaker action of taking a structure. Instead, you can get a stronger action, which gives you a bridge as well. But you still always need to pay for bridges. Bridges will always cost you 1 wood, so you're going to spend your wood. And why do you want to take a bridge? Well, let's just say I happen to build out this structure too. What this means is I can now place a bridge. The little notch is going on here, so you can see this little notch. You can now place your bridge in that gap here. So that little notch can go on here, and it goes across that piece of wood there. And then what's going to happen is, if and when you're able to bring out another structure, and then you can place another bridge, you can now activate this building because it's surrounded by 2 bridges. Only when it's surrounded by 2 bridges can you activate it a second and final time, and again trigger what it is. So the minimum at the miss again is only 1, which will give me 1 wood, and I'd get myself 3 coal. Again, if I want to complete these guys, I need to have them surrounded by roots, and they'll give me 1 action straight away immediately. But once it's surrounded by 2 bridges, again I can trigger it a second time. So some of these things will kind of chain. I've mainly been focusing on more points on bigger structures and not necessarily on the triggering, but the triggering I think is the key crux, the finessing on how to win this game. So how does scoring work at the end of the game? You are going to count up how many points you have from your structures. You're going to count about, again, how many points you have got empty from your board. Also, you'll gain a point for every single route, apart from paths. Paths do not score you points. However, again, you sometimes want to build a path because they're not that expensive, they're just using clay, and they do not lose your points. They're kind of worth 1 point or stopping you from losing a point as well. And there's other point scoring in terms of if you've got any money left over, then you're going to get a point per money. So again, if you've got 1 thaler, you get 1 point at the end of the game. And if this was a finishing situation, you'll get 0 points from your basic resources. So you're going to score your lowest one, so in this case it's 0. If it was like this, you'd score 1 point. In this case, you'd get yourself 2 points, etc. This would get you 4 points because these are both on position 2. That would get you 4 points because one's at 3, one's at 4. That would get you 5 points. That would get you 9 points, etc. And you cannot have more than, in this case, you cannot go beyond here. So 10, you could get yourself a maximum 12 points. The last thing to talk about as well is just being aware of the fact that you might have some scoring which can occur throughout the game. So for example, this card is one whereby if you've got 1 water next to it, then you can activate it once it's surrounded by roots. And depending on how many water around it, for example, you can also spend coal. So you can spend 4 with 1, 2, 3, whatever it might be. And you'll get yourself 3 clay, 3 wood, and you get points. So you can get 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. Again, you can activate these cards twice. And some of these cards can give you 24 points. They're very hard to do, and normally you're giving up money to do so, remembering that money is 1 for 1 at the end of the game. So you're giving up a point to gain a point. It isn't always worth it. That is the game, and what do I think of it? Well, it's very good. It's great, in fact. I would give this at least a 7.7 out of 10, much higher than average for me. I am aware with zooming out, I haven't got some extra lighting, so I do apologise for that. And yes, it's clean, it's clear, it's smooth. There is a manual for each of the decks of cards you can play with. We've most recently played through all of E numerous times, but there's decks A through to F, and we're going to play with A next, which is going to be tonight. And those are representing the original Oranienburger Kanal, which came out a year prior by SPIEL.digital. This is by Sylex, a French publisher. And the difference being that that version deck E was only available in the second expansion with F, and then C and D in the first expansion, A and B in the original. I would say that these pieces are huge. They're a bit too big. I don't think they need to be this big. They're a bit too chunky. And this is a bit too thick as well. It's a very narrow line, as you can see. There's not much space. They really are quite tight, which is quite annoying. I'd rather use pieces, let's say, from Stone Age or something like that, whereby they're a little bit thinner and I think fit better into it. But this is ingenious, making sure this doesn't get knocked, and the way that you can, of course, pay with your money to move this on and influence how much you want to spend, bearing in mind you get that free bonus at the end of the turn, the end of the round, sorry, if, of course, there's a space for it to move into, which I think is advantageous. Again, lots of different cards to play with. Again, each deck means you're going to be playing with all 18 cards, because there's 54 cards, 18 of each of the 3 colours. And oh, the other thing, so these cards, now it doesn't say what size these cards are if you want to sleeve them, but the text, so you look up in the book, because these are matte cards, it can be quite difficult to figure out what they are. I do like the fact that thematically each of the card type, for example, a hotel uses wood, stone and money to build a hotel. That kind of makes sense. And I don't know what we're going to spot here. A maintenance firm uses clay and stone. But yeah, sometimes it is really fun. Very fun to actually see the specific items relating to what they are. It is a tight game. It's not a long play either. It's quite accurate. It is about an hour to play, and it's very smooth and quick. And when if you're playing as that first player marker, the person with the extra token, it's quite advantageous to see the opponent who's already finished their 2 turns, just pretty much resetting most of it for the next round. Whereby, remember, if this is how it's finished, you're placing an extra tile on these 2 spaces, and you'll always place an extra money on the top row, and then replenishing cards as and when needed. So just to reiterate, if you're down to only, let's say, I don't know, this is the situation, we've got 1 card over at the side here, you bring a card over, let's say you're up to 3 cards, then you will replenish up to 5, not up to 4. So you bring out a card and then another card. And it is quite interesting, especially when you play, Gunting House isn't the best of font, I would have said, for this particular one. But in this case, what this card's giving you is either spend 4 victory points or 3 money. Again, you're giving up 3 money, which is victory points at the end of the game, so you rather give money, but how tight is that? It is tight to then get all those resources. Some of the clarifications aren't always that clear, but generally speaking, it's fairly straightforward. And it's fine that in fact these pieces just fit on top, but it is it's slightly fiddly, and I think it could be slightly wider. The originals look quite nice as well. But cogs are fine. The first time I played it, I felt the board looks a bit bland, but it has grown on me. It's quite a nice smooth colour. And yes, when you start seeing some of your resources whack up to the top end, it is something whereby you feel like you want to spend them too. But this has been Kanal. Again, check out my Uwe Rosenberg playlist as well, the AmassGames playlist, and I had a setup player and review playlist and more stuff. And I look forward to talking to you about this more in the podcast, TikTok, X, Threads, etc. But like I said, this has been a very interesting game whereby you're trying to build structures, you're then trying to surround it by roots to trigger them and then activate them a second and final time by having 2 bridges connecting to them. If you connect that with 3 or more, it makes no difference. You must have, though, at least 2 bridges, and it will trigger once you've got 2 bridges. Again, you also want to be aware of money. When there's no player aid, you just need to go off this, and the fact that at the end of the round, you will actually be able to turn it 1 time extra, as long as there's a gap for it to move into. That pretty much sums it up. Again, there's telling you here how much it costs to buy everything. Very expensive. These things I do not often buy. I tend to go for roads, sometimes with paths, just because, again, I'm finding you cannot typically get yourself stone. And of course, you can easily jump on this one as well. I've tried typically not even going for this route as well, because once this is uncovered as well, you can get yourself a bridge action again. And this one allows you to actually get out yourself another path. Sorry, another structure. So it's tight to play over. You don't know who's going to win until the final turn of the game, although I guess everything is calculable. And yes, I think it's very enjoyable. I do recommend check this out. I often call it Glass Road, but no, it's called Kanal, and it is easier to pronounce than saying Oranienburger, Canal, etc. Well, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the game. That's been Kanal. Again, we've mainly been playing with Glossary Deck E so far, but I hope you found this of interest and speak to you again soon. But for now, that has been Kanal. Enjoy the game. Back to the table.